Okay. You ready?
Sure, do we intro this or something? I don't think so.
No.
It's not a fucking podcast.
Yeah.
Tupelo. Come on. Hey. Here.
We're sponsored by Tushy.
Yeah. The wet wipes manufacturer.
Mm-hmm. The bidet that you can attach to your toilet.
Oh, is that real?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
I want one.
I do too. Oh, fucking come on, dog.
Put in code Tyler Clown at checkout and you'll get 69% off.
Tyler's Hole at
Tyler's Dirty Hole.
Yeah, Tyler's Hole 20 at for 20% off.
Tyler's Chia Seed Secrets.
That's how you do it.
All right. Okay. I'm nervous. All right, whatever.
Nervous too,
I'm just gonna go, and then if we fucking hate it, we'll just start over.
Perfect.
Okay.
But we have to keep the chia seed, the butthole.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of your past musical projects have been one-offs, like your last band had one record, and when you've done solo projects, you've made one tape under the same moniker. Do you think you'll continue with Clown Car Cassette Playback?
I've thought about it, and I don't think I'll continue with Clown Car Cassette Playback. Maybe Clown Car, but not the Cassette Playback. The Cassette Playback was mostly just like a play on, USSR CCCP.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought that was a funny thing in this moment right now, or maybe like kind of relevant, during quarantine, this like downfall of like American capitalism. But I like the idea of a clown car. It really does like kind of feel. The idea of clown car feels really good because it I feel kind of like a fool all the time, and I am like, we are all like crushing everything in, like whether it's like emotions or like activities or like distractions. I think clown car feels really good, so maybe I'll do like another spin on it, like put another record out. It'd be clown car something, so, just to continually keep it like kind of fresh, because I don't like the idea. I have done like a lot of like one-off projects, and I don't like the idea of doing like a band as if it's like a project and a name or a moniker as if that is like my identity. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think that becomes really. You become really like beholden to that, and you become beholden to like what you have done in the past or what that project has represented in the past. And I think it's better to just kind of like move on and keep circling and cycling. But with that being said, from like a perspective of like accessibility, like then it becomes hard for people to like track you down, and people aren't going to track me down. I have to like try to maintain something from them, and so maybe to like have it be somewhat amorphous, but also still maintaining some kind of like through line. Yeah, I think Clown Car would be. Yeah. Clown Car is a good one.
I mean,
it means nothing. It means a lot, but it also like means nothing. I think that's like kind of the way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, Clown Car, it's just a really good image also for like a package of something, because it's like obviously it's small, and then like you're amazed by how much is coming out of it, which is like, I think the record is like that in a way because of how detail oriented it really is. Like you don't always see that coming out of like small packages essentially, but
like cassettes.
I mean, just to continue with the idea of the clown, like you have used clown before, and Kathy's clown, and yeah, I mean the idea of a clown is like the fool, or like a mask, or the sad clown, and just like a joke, but there's always like a seriousness to it, and I never thought of any of your music as like jokey. It's very serious in its own like emotional way. Have you thought about any other imagery about the clown, like why you've been attracted to that?
Well, firstly, I think that's. I feel funny like talking to you as if you're like somebody I don't know really well. No, I mean...
I don't know you.
Yeah, what was your name? I think I've always thought of my music as kind of like at least having like an air of like not comedy necessarily, but you know, it's hard for me to like take it seriously. There is a lot of like sadness in my music, but I think there's just like a lot of sadness in life in general, and I think it feels more apt a lot of times for me to like express the sadness in my life through music than the happiness, because like I tend to like kind of revel in the happiness, I guess, in the moment, and the sadness tends to like linger a little bit more.
Yep.
But I think, you know, with the Imma Fuckin Clown cassette, I think there's a lot of kind of like funny stuff in it, you know? There's like a lot of one-off stuff, like Harriet is doing some really dopey stuff in it, which is really fun because she and I had like a really fun dopey friendship, and there's like a lot of fun sounds in it.
Yeah.
I think, you know, a lot of kind of like dopey sounds.
It's like cartoon sounds, but they're like old cartoons, so there's darkness in there. Or like, yeah, if you think about like looking at like a really old Disney cartoon, you're like, this is fucked up. But
yeah, and I think the clown is good in that sense because the clown is like a performative. It's a performative thing by nature, like you know, and it does represent, like, on some level, like on the most like basic level, it's meant to represent like some kind of like celebration, happiness, like jokiness, something like that. But then there's so many different levels that, like, as like a society, we've kind of like construed clowns to mean, you know, whether it's like the sad clown, the drunk clown, the, you know, the buffoon, all of that kind of stuff. And I feel like all of those things all the time, depending on like the day, like the time of the day, depending on like the weather, you know what I mean? So I think you know, to keep talking about clown cards, like, I think, yeah, you're right, the way there's like just a ton of shit stuffed into this tiny package. It's fucking funny, but it's also like somehow feels like necessary, like outside of the idea of like an actual clown car itself. Like, it feels so necessary to just like shove as much shit into your life as possible.
Yeah, totally. And like right now, when you just cannot even imagine what like your future is, I think like I'm going through that, so many people are. It's like you just kind of have to live in the moment, but like also just do exactly what you want to do every second, which is sort of like, I don't know, I think in like a song, like the songs themselves in the tape, it's like each one has its own like mini world and landscape, and like it does definitely like go from silly cute and then like super dark and like moody, whatever. But yeah, I mean, I even think in like the titles of the songs, like Sad Version or like Lil Cutie, it's like they're funny, but like
Lil Cutie's like a really funny song.
Yeah,
that's like a really funny, and that was just like one I threw on the cassette because I had found it on, like, I had recorded it like years ago, I guess, and I found the cassette of it, and I like blew out the cassette and just recorded it, and I thought it just was like such a cute little like funny melody, and it felt like a good counterpoint to all the like the sadder shit later on in the cassette.
I think it is good because it's like there's no like it's definitely one whole thing, but it's not like a same thing over and over. There's like a landscape of differences. I mean, for me personally, you've always been like such a guitar hero of mine, and
I am, yeah.
I mean, you've just like taught me a lot about guitar and like tone, and just always influencing me in that. But I guess I'm curious, what are some experiences with music that shaped how you play guitar?
I mean, definitely for me, like the most, like, I mean, going like all the way back, I think definitely like, you know, like Jimi Hendrix was kind of like the first one that like really kind of blew me away. And he's somebody like I kind of like lost track as I got like into my teenage years, I got into like punk and stuff like that, and then I came back to him, and now he's just like still such a like a hero to me. Like the way he plays is so like visceral, and it's so like textural, and has this like moisture to everything, and this weird like fucking I don't know, man, he's a fucking king. But yeah, definitely the people that influenced me the most in my like personal style was definitely like Sonic Youth. Like the first time I heard Sister by Sonic Youth, like that song Schizophrenia really blew me away. And then like going deeper into like the no wave stuff, like Teenage Jesus and like Arto Lindsay and Glenn Branca. I think Glenn Branca is somebody I try to like emulate a lot. And then getting, you know, really like just really visceral like textural guitar stuff. I don't really have like a lot of interest in like chords really, as much as I have like an interest in like the way that like the chords kind of bring out like harmonics, something stuff like that. Like there's the second track on the cassette, I think we ended up calling it like Real Candy Crush. That song is like it's just one chord, you know what I mean, the whole time. And it was just one I found like just randomly on like an open tuning, and I just played it for the whole thing, and it just sounds really, I think the chords just like really pretty, and it just sounds really good. The harmonics move everywhere, you can kind of get lost in it, you know. There's like Kevin Shields does that obviously for like My Bloody Valentine really, really well. That's like his, I mean, he kind of like mastered that in this really beautiful way. But yeah, I don't know, like delicate guitar like playing has never really been my thing, and it doesn't really interest me as much as like the guitar as like almost like a bell and a chime. I don't know if you were with me when I saw Boredoms at First Avenue that one time.
I wasn't there, but
it was amazing. He like, Yamatsuka I had this wall of like Telecasters or Stratocasters that were like strung together, and they were just open tuned, and he just had this giant stick, and he would hit all of them and create this huge like bong, and it would just ring out forever and ever. And it was just like the coolest fucking thing I'd ever seen, and like that's kind of what I really love about it, about like guitar. That and like, you know, Les Ralas It in New Day is like another one where like the guitar just kind of takes over the whole of the sound, not in a way where it's like a note or a chord being played, but like that, just like the force of it takes over and kind of saturates everything.
Totally.
I think that's like kind of like the interest that I have in guitar.
It's like a wash, and I also feel like, I mean, we've talked about this a little bit before, but like it is rare to have like cool guitar music these days or something. But
yeah, I think that's something, yeah, we have talked about this before on a previous podcast. On here in the shop. There's like this really like sad kind of thing that's happening now with guitar music, where like people, I think, kind of take it for granted, and they're like, well, you know, nothing new will ever happen on the guitar. No, there's nobody doing anything interesting in guitar, and that just like completely takes people away from the guitar. You know what I mean? Like that, and I think that's a really sad thing, because the guitar is just an instrument, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like a way of like expressing yourself, and I don't think it's like, I think people feel like this idea like they need to like go into like this retro kind of style and like be like, well, I'm going to play guitar, so I'm going to sound like a punk band. I'm going to play guitar, and like post-punk is one that people use all the time, which is probably like something relative to me, but it always feels really weird when people say it. Or shoegaze. I
do think it is relative, but it is like when you're coming at it from a different angle, it's like you don't see that. And
right, but post-punk shouldn't, I've never thought of it as like a genre, you know what I mean? And I think it's like a codified genre now, where it's like, you know, a heavy like round sounding like bass line with like some like brittle guitar on top of it. And I think just in general, it's really sad when people like cut guitar off, because it stops people from then like exploring it. You know, if people are like, well, this isn't an option, well, then it's not going to be an option for people. And I think it is fun. I think there is still so much you can do with a guitar, just like you can do so much with anything. I mean, I don't think the guitar should be like the be all and end all, but for me, it's like the instrument that I feel most comfortable like exploring, I guess you could say. Yeah. Like it's the one instrument that I feel really like I have a certain control of it, and so that therefore I can like kind of express myself in a certain way. You know, I couldn't do that on drums. I don't know how to fucking play drums. I mean, I don't really know how to play guitar that well either, but like I certainly would feel very uncomfortable if somebody like sat me down behind a drum kit and was like, you know, try to express yourself with this. You know, I wouldn't know what the fuck I was doing. But with guitar, I feel like I can kind of like go off on tangents and I can like explore it a little bit more comfortably. But yeah, I think it's sad when people relegate guitar to just doing rock and roll stuff, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, there's some amazing guitar stuff happening right now too, of course, but I just think it's like, there's just like a idea of cool that is like not associated with guitars, or like an idea of cutting edge that's not associated. So like that's sort of
totally.
Also,
I think people really do like think of it as just like this like relic of like the 20th century almost, you know what I mean? But you know, I think about bands like, I mean, they're done now, and I guess they've been done for a while, but like a band like Sightings, like Mark Morgan was like, he was doing some crazy shit on the guitar like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, you know, and I think that's like something to look at, you know, something to look forward to.
Yeah. I'm wondering about how you write your lyrics.
Man, that's I don't like writing lyrics. They really don't I don't like the idea of like saying something like literally, you know what I mean? So a lot of times the lyrics to me, they come last. Like the phrasing will come first. Like I'll write a song and I'll like essentially say a bunch of fucking gibberish on top of it, and then I'll fit words around it. Or else I'll just try to like get into like a really light, like almost like trance-like state, and just like write as airy and like unconfined as possible, as in like try not to tell a story, you know what I mean? Try to like paint like a picture a little bit using like words that have like images to it. Sunshine is like one I use a lot, because like the sun is always like something that like the sun, or a lack thereof, is something that always really like affects me personally. But actually writing like words and telling a story, I'm not comfortable with that idea. From like I like good lyrics when people do it, but I also like feel like it can really like overtake something and kind of ruin something for me, like ruin an experience for me, and I just don't want to tell people how to like feel about like anything that they're hearing from me, because it's also oblique when I'm making it, that I don't think, you know, I would hate to be like, no, this song is about this, or this is about that, and that's how you should hear it, you know what I mean? And I think being too forward with your lyrics will do that.
Yeah, totally.
I feel like you're the opposite though. I feel like you write your songs around the lyrics.
Sort of, yeah. I mean, I write poetry and then I like often like borrow things from that, but I do the same thing where I like talk in gibberish for like a really long time and then like go back and sort of like see what gibberish themes I'm like saying or something, and then like go back and like it's like back and forth a lot, but I know, I mean, it's hard because you don't want to like force people in a direction, and like words are such a direct way of like putting people somewhere, and like can overtake the tone of the song, which is often like probably what you're trying to convey more even, and like, or I do that because of like, this is like this feeling, but the lyrics, they always pop up because they're words and it's like a language thing.
Yeah, and it's really, I think people take lyrics really literally too. You know
I mean?
Even if they're like not literal lyrics, like even if they're like very like expressionistic, people will take them kind of literally, and that's really, you know, there's, especially like in the culture that we have now, where everything's about like, you know, social media and tweeting and like Instagram and all this kind of bullshit. It's like people really like, you know, I could play any kind of like chord on the guitar and I wouldn't be like judged for it or like get in trouble for it, but if I were to say like one word like that was misconstrued by one person, it could be it could totally like, you know, destroy like everything else that I was working on, and so, or like overpowered, I should say, like overtaken. And so it's like, it's, I don't know, man, it's really hard. I don't have faith in myself when it comes to lyrics. I don't think I just have like faith in lyrics in general, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think they are taken too seriously a lot of times. But also, yeah, I mean, when it's, I don't know, you can tell when it's something that is meaningful to the song. And I mean, I do feel like the lyrics on this are really interesting and like they do enhance.
Yeah, I think the ones that I ended up going with a lot of times were like enough to like kind of like show the direction that I'm going in or something with them, but not enough to really like overpower the rest of it. But and you know, I think there is like a little bit of a story. There's definitely like in my head there's a story. The record tells a story, but you know, it's pretty vague what it is. And maybe that's all just colored by the fact that like I'm thinking back about all the time that I spent making the record and like what was happening in my life at that time, you know what I mean? But I don't think people would know any details about that. But, you know, they could maybe get an idea of like the moods I was in, which is like, I think that's more important to me anyway.
Were there any books or movies you were watching like over the time of making this that felt influential in any way?
No. I mean, there's definitely a lot of books and a lot of movies that I was like participating with or like enjoying. But I don't know if that stuff really like, I don't know how much that stuff really like affects, I don't know how much that stuff really affects my like output.
Yeah.
Like, because when I try to like, whenever I try to incorporate that kind of stuff, whenever I try to incorporate like concepts or like influences from elsewhere, it never works. And like I never end up like feeling it as intensely, like I never end up feeling it as personally, I guess. And so then it's like nothing I would ever present.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure it's more like if stuff is gonna hit me like subliminally, then I'll certainly like, then it'll certainly seep in there. But I couldn't tell you specifically what that would have been, you know what I mean?
Totally.
Like, I mean, throughout that record, this cassette, I was reading like a lot of like noir, I guess, like a lot of like James Ellroy, who I really love, but there's nothing about that. There's nothing about that like I can hear in the music at all. You know, like this dark like 1950s like LA like detective. Yeah. Like, you know, that doesn't feel like this music at all. It kind of feels like the opposite, which is maybe that's the influence, you know?
Yeah, totally. Do you, like, when you were recording this, I mean, you said you had, like, picked something from an old recording for Lil Cutie, but, like, did you have it in mind that this was, like, these were songs that you were building for a record, or were they, like...
Specifically what I did was I had that like low speed Tascam 4 track that I have, the whatever the hell it is, I can't remember the model number, but I specifically was like, I sat down to like I hadn't like put out like a solo record in a long time, and I specifically was like, I just want to make a cassette that's super simple, super quick, 20 minutes long, whatever. I'm only going to use these 4 tracks of this cassette, and I'm only going to and I gave myself, I think, like 14 days to do it. And I ended up with all of this music after 14 days that I really liked, and then I became more interested in like expanding it. So then I essentially bounced them to like digitally to my computer and did like vocal overdubs on top of everything. So, and then I started going back through all these old cassettes that I hadn't listened to in a really long time, and I found a couple of songs, like the one song, I can't remember what it's ended up called on the record, like the really long, it's like 10 minutes long. That was actually a track that I found on like a 5-year-old cassette that I recorded at high speed, but my high speed tape deck broke, so it played back at like low speed, and it has this really cool like kind of like languid like kind of sound to it, and I really liked it, and then I just did vocals on top of it, you know what I mean? So there was definitely like an idea of like making a record at the beginning, but it wasn't it wasn't even the same thing that ended up happening in the end, you know? In the end, when I realized that maybe I could have like a record that I was maybe a little bit more like proud of, maybe if that's the word, as opposed to being like, I tended to make like kind of like a throwaway, just kind of like a quick thing, just to like kind of like get some shit out of my head, and then it ended up being something a lot more like big than that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad it happened, because
thanks. Thanks, huh?
I guess like I'm wondering if anything of your like perfume studies has like influenced your music, because I feel like it's just a really interesting way to like engage with senses that like, I mean, we all are into like scents and like whatever things and smelling things, and we know that it jogs memory and all this, but I feel like you're engaging with it in a deeper way, and like to like think about scent and sound as something. I don't know if that's ever come.
Well, I don't think I'm engaging with scent in like a deeper way as much as it is more just like an intentful way. Like I think people take scent for granted. You know what I mean? And it's something they experience and it's something they can enjoy. But I think the idea of like actually paying attention to it and trying to learn how to even just like speak about it is something that like people don't do.
Yeah.
I think with this cassette, I wouldn't say that like it necessarily really like reflected that, but it's, I think more what it is that the same thing that inform, like the same urge, like the same drive, the same like awareness that drives my music is the same one that like drives my like urge to like understand perfume more, you know what I mean? And I think they're really touching on the same impulses. I think like when I was describing the lyrics earlier, like they are just kind of airy and they're atmospheric. Like the lyrics themselves are very atmospheric, you know, like I guess I can't really think of any right off the top of my head, but it's, you know, most of the time my lyrics are like, I'm laying in bed, there's a candle, or there's sunshine, and there's like a person with me and we're like touching each other. That's like basically every lyric I've ever fucking written, you know what I mean? So something sensual like that, and like some kind of like expression of that. And I think that's very much like, you know, they're very much like one and the same. Like if you're having like a sensual experience, you know, whether it's alone or with some with a partner or with multiple partners, it's like you're like living by experiencing it through the sight, through the sound, through the touch, through the taste, and it's all I think scent is something I was just like really drawn to since I was young, and I've used, you know, for whatever reason I like was like aware that like I could like use it to like enhance certain experiences, which I think is, like I said, people kind of take it for granted. And so yeah, I think it's this, I don't know if like my perfume studies have like informed the music as much as it is that they've just informed me as a person, you know what I mean? And then it's just me making that music. It's kind of like you asking about the influence of like other media on like my music, and it's like I don't know if I could control it even if I wanted to. I'm like I'm not that like smart of a person, or like I'm not like that like.
I don't think that's true.
Oh, thanks. But oh, thanks, huh? I mean, I don't know if it's about like smarts, you know, but I mean, it's like I don't know if I'm like that, like self-aware or like that capable of even being that in control. You know what I mean? There's a lot of my life where I just like give the power up, and it's gonna happen as it is, and I can just like set up the things to kind of like control some of the constraints of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I guess with that stuff, it's like with the perfume, like I went onto your perfume school's website and like went to their log of like all the scents they have.
Institute of Art and Olfaction. Big ups to all 5 of you that are listening to
and
this.
There's like a like an Excel spreadsheet of like all the different things they have, and there's like so much rich language with all of that stuff that I was like, oh, this is super inspiring to me. Just like looking at this, I'm like, whoa, this is amazing. And then also, you're just very intent. Like, I mean, you're a very like you're always like, I saw this movie, it's amazing, you gotta see it. It's so like this, or like I'm reading this book, it's so like perfectly doing this thing. So I mean, it all does seep in, I'm sure.
It does.
It's not it's not on purpose, but I do like think that is like a cool thing.
Well, like like I said, I think it's like it's not that stuff doesn't inform one another in my life. It's that I just don't know if I could like control it, even if I like had an interest in controlling it. You know, a lot of times when I'm making the music or when I'm making like a perfume or something, like perfume is a lot more intentional because you have to take like the actual products themselves and blend them up, and so that's one of the reasons I really enjoy that, is because I have to be like, well, I can write it all out, but if I'd like figure out a formula. But if it's with like music, I couldn't be like, yo, I'm gonna put some like guitar that's like twangy on a Telecaster right here, blah blah blah, and then I'm gonna add like this big drum, you know what I mean? I could do that, and I do, I guess, kind of do that in like a micro kind of moment, but I could never sit down and formulate that on paper and then express it. It would always have to be kind of the opposite, where I would start expressing it and then maybe shape it from there. You know what I mean? I think it's, that was a fun question. Good.
I just have one question left, and because you're moving away from LA, I'm wondering how like living here for the last 5 years influenced this record or any of the other music. I mean, that's a hard thing to say, but with all this stuff, like, I do feel like you've been invested in like just experiencing the environment and like talking about the sunshine or talking about this stuff. Like it is like a really different environment to make music in than Minneapolis, where it's dark all the time or something.
Right. I mean that's, you know, you and I moved here together, and that's essentially the main reason I moved here, is because I wanted to live someplace where there was like sun all of the time, because I am so affected by like the sun, by the weather, by the climate, and by everything around me. And I really did, like, that's how I view the world, or that's how I like when I check in with myself on like a daily level, on like a moment to moment level. A lot of times it does have to do with like the weather. How is the weather affecting me right now? And maybe that's just because, you know, we grew up in like such like a, you know, bleak, depressing place. That's the way I always viewed Minneapolis, you know, anyway. Like, obviously the summer times are great, but the winter time is just like, it's so heavy, man. Like, you can't escape it. And then, you know, living here, it kind of did the opposite, where you just can't escape the sun, the oppressiveness of the sun sometimes. You know, there'd be times where I would be just like fucking down in the dumps, man. Like, just really wanting a fucking cloudy day, just one fucking cloudy day, and instead it's day after day after day after day of like just oppressively bright, like overwhelmingly bright sunshine. And like, that's really cool, you know. I really appreciate that. And I think you do hear that in a lot of the music. And it's funny because when I'm thinking about the songs, I actually listened back to the cassette last week, and I hadn't listened to it in a really long time, and it was like the like upbeat songs, like the first half of it is essentially like an upbeat record, right? The second half is like the sad part of the record. But even though I know, like, I was pretty sad making the first half of that record, but it was just like the daytime was just overwhelming.
Like manic day.
Definitely, it's just like very. When I think back on it, it's like those songs are like daytime songs, and then there's the dark half, which is the nighttime songs, because you can't really be sad here in LA until the nighttime comes. And there's something about that that's like really cool, but it's also, you know, it's really overwhelming, and I'm excited to like go to some place where there's more fluctuation, I guess, or more like variation. You know what I mean? Whether that's like me ending up in like France, or whether it's me ending up in like on the East Coast or something. It's like I think that's, you know, I really appreciate that about here, about this place, about LA, and I was really excited and anxious to see what it did to me, and I see what it did, and it's really great. And I really love it. I'm gonna really fucking miss it, you know. I'm gonna miss having the sunshine every day. I'm gonna miss like the beautiful winter times where you'll get like, you know, like an hour of rain and then sunshine the rest of the day. You know, that shit's amazing. I fucking love that. I really do like LA a lot, and I'll be sad to go. But yeah, I think you do hear that in the cassette probably quite a bit.
I think so.
I think my music, if you listen to the music I made here in LA, whether it was this cassette, or I have some more music that will be coming out in the near future, and then like, you know, that band Rosesucker that I did, like that music's like very, very sunny, and it's very bubbly. And then you think about like the music I did prior to that, like in Minneapolis, like, you know, like Bliss UK was like right before that, and that's some fucking depressing ass music, man. It's like really cold, it's like really atmospheric, it's really like spacious, because that's just how, that's, you know, whether or not it's like me like reshaping the story like in the past or not, it's like that's how my memory of my life was then. And whether or not it's, you know, reflected, or whether or not that's how I remember it because that's how my music sounded then, or because that's actually how my brain was then.
Yeah,
it's like hard to say, but you know, I feel like it's definitely,
yeah. And I think like coming from a place like Minnesota, it's like you have that experience and then you have this experience to like go off of, like you're coming with all this like dark baggage or something. It's not really baggage, so but it's dark. Just like you have like the cold in your bones forever, I feel like when
right
it's just like, I know, well, you know, you go back and you're just like, yep, like this is just ingrained in my cells. But and then you come here and it's like, I don't know what I thought would happen to me. Like, I kind of was like, I'm just going to shed that, but it doesn't happen. You just hold on to it forever, and then you put this on top of it, and it is like a weird dissonance, but it's a good...
It's weird to like go from living someplace where it's like 6 months of being trapped inside in like the dark, depressing, cold, just freezing cold winters, and then to come and just, you know, have that be like the ultimate enemy in my like my psyche.
Yeah,
like that's the ultimate bad guy, and then all of a sudden to like move here and be like, fuck, I want that, like for just one day, like just one day, just fucking one day of like depressing ass fucking weather, you know.
Yeah,
I think that's really funny how that fucking works. And yeah, you know, I don't know if it's like that's something like you need to express, but it's definitely something I feel like comes out in my expressions.
Yeah, totally. Well,
is that it? Oh, cool. Good job, Soph.
Yeah, thank you. Good job. I love you.
Love you too. Signing off.
Episode 1 of the Dovecast.
Oh my, that's a good idea.
Should I start that? Okay.
You should. Why not? Why not? Okay. Bye, everybody. Dogs.
Bye.
Dogs.
Eno and Tupelo are here.
Yeah, Eno and Tupelo have been here the whole time. If you guys want to say anything, now's the time.
They look cute.
Good boys.
They're cute.